Church, starting this week and running through to the end of June, we are going to be in a new sermon series titled Letters to the Churches. Paul and his team write about 13 letters, 14 if you want to count the book of Hebrews to him as well. He writes these letters to churches that are spread out throughout the Roman Empire. These were churches that Paul and his team had visited and started as missionaries. And now, part of our problem is that when we read these letters, we often read them without knowing the situations and circumstances that Paul was writing into. What was happening in the church? What were they facing? Why was Paul writing? And so we want to take a deep dive into answering that question. Why is Paul writing? So what we're going to do is each week we're going to take a bird's eye view of one of these letters, one of these books in our New Testament. And we're going to look at what's going on in the church community when Paul wrote. And we're going to ask and look at what does he have to say about those situations. Then we're going to do the final step. And the final step is we're going to take what we see happening, what we see Paul engaging with and teaching, and we're going to try and apply it and learn it and see how it speaks to our lives today. So, some of the situations that Paul wrote into. Well, there were churches who were under persecution. That's no surprise. There were churches that had infighting between its members, between different groups. Both sides absolutely sure that they were correct on the issue. Paul wrote to churches who were following after celebrities rather than following after Jesus and how they were going about their Christian life. He even had churches that were wanting to tell Paul that, hey, we don't want you here anymore. They were rejecting his leadership. And finally, Paul was answering a lot of questions. He took the opportunity of writing these letters to answer core questions of what it means to be a Christian, what it means to walk and live out the Christian faith. Questions like, what does it look like to leave our old life behind and live out our new life united with Christ? How does God's promise to Abraham work out and be fulfilled today? And finally, how do I grow as a follower of Jesus? And I think one major question that Paul answers repeatedly that is so good for us to hear is, what does it mean to be an international church? Because we're not the first international church. There were many before us, and many were in this initial phase of the church just starting out in many cities around the world. So, these are some interesting questions we're going to dig into. These are relevant topics for us today. I'm so very excited, anticipating what God is going to speak and do through this coming series. Bye for now. We'll see you on Sunday.